Hey there everyone, I'm back. Happy New Year. Yeah, I'm sorry it's been a while, but we'll skip the pleasantries and excuses because this is my video for my top 5 topography suggestions for H1Z1. Now, the game has been released and the map is small at the moment, but with future updates we all know the map is going to grow. For now, I think the developers could make an amazing map just using the existing terrain and features that already exist in game, and that would be great. Though, when the map grows to a certain point where vehicles are essential to get around in, it's going to be important to keep the environment diverse to prevent monotony and also present new challenges for players. I'm sure a lot of future terrain has already been discussed and has already been underway, and it's also been mentioned that the land is going to be developed from researching players' behaviour and how they interact with the terrain, which is really smart. Though I thought it would be interesting and fun to do a video on landscape ideas and terrain features based on apocalyptic America, I think if anything similar to these 5 suggestions were put in, it would make the game absolutely awesome. But that's just me, you know, that's just, I think it would, but that's just me. Some of these landscapes are obvious to really far out, but tell me what you think, guys. It's really down to you. So this is my top 5 topography suggestions for H1Z1 and my reasons why. Let's dive right in.
Number 5. River networks.
Okay. This isn't really a different area, it's a general feature that could extend the whole map. A running river system would be really interesting and an exciting obstacle to tackle. You could have parts that slow moving to fast flowing, and with faster currents they could be really dangerous. There's really loads that could be done here. For instance, if you were driving along and came across a broken bridge, you could scour the river for safer shallows to cross your vehicle with, or maybe you're driving off-road just to avoid and evade survivors and other bandits that travel the road. Going even further into depth, you could only be able to cross shallow parts with particular vehicles such as jeeps and trucks that are better equipped for off-road. Perhaps even being able to tow lesser vehicles across would open up more teamwork options for groups travelling through. But in all honesty, for that to see reality, God knows how much programming madness that would take for it to get to that level. I was talking with my friend Zendicus about having rivers, and he told me something I didn't even think of, where if you were getting chased by enemies, you could jump into the fast-moving part of the river, and if you were swept downstream, you'd have a chance of drowning. So either you could make that crucial choice to deal with your enemies, or roll the dice and try and outswim the river. Perhaps even if you're crossing by foot, there could be more varied areas with rocky stepping stones you could jump from between to get over. I think what would also make river networks interesting is the possibility of developing small rafts or crafting kayaks. This would offer a new option of travelling with some belongings through the map by water. I think it would be great to have a small kayak that could hold a tent or some supplies that you could travel the waterways. You could stop on an embankment, secure the boat, set up a camp, raid nearby places before moving on. Going around a boat could also have its dangers as well. You could have loads of obstacles in the water, such as cars and bits of structures that have found their way into the river, toxic substances such as chemicals and oil that have polluted the areas, perhaps even natural dangers such as river rapids and waterfalls. So there's such a lot there that it couldn't be done in a small space of time, but I do think it would be awesome just to see primitive running rivers to give the game a little bit more realism and offer new challenges to the player as well. So yeah, moving on anyway.
Number 4. Navajo grounds.
Depending how far west the current map is based, if it's spread out to the east, it could hit an arid section based on Monument Valley. This is an iconic landscape that everyone around the world would identify as America. I imagine a lot of Americans are frowning right now saying, oh, why don't you put a gift shop on the road there and a nice little horse tour ranch? I do agree, it is a bit novelty, but the terrain is unique. Firstly, it's dry and dusty, so resources like water are more valuable. When it comes to zombie survival games, I don't think there's much out there that has arid terrain. Most games seem fine with having players running around the woods, so it would be refreshing to have something like this, something that's more drier and pushes the stakes for survival higher. In this landscape, you could follow dust-covered roads that wind through abandoned rest stops, gas stations, zombie-ridden towns, even things like secluded ranches you could hold up in. However, the rock formations as well, known as buttes, could have great potential here. If they could be made to be climbed, this would enable players to turn them into natural forts from other players and other undead. From there, you can sit up high and keep watch on who's passing through, kind of like the hills have eyes.
I see that.
Whoa, what was that?
Number 3. The West Coast.
This is a bit of a far out one, so I'll cover it lightly. Basically, the idea being that after the plague ravages the west coast and the utilities shut down, there's no more water, so the whole west coast dries up. But to top it off, the west coast suffers an epic earthquake that tears the land into pieces. Unfortunately, I thought this idea would be pretty unique until I recently discovered a movie called San Andreas starring The Rock. And by the looks of the trailer, it looks very similar to what I'm getting at here. But whatever the media, no matter what you do out there, there's always a good chance that something similar has been done before. But I'm probably just looking too far into it, I guess. I think an earth-torn area would be great for the west coast, or perhaps an area based on San Francisco. Nothing is straightforward here. The roads are broken by canyons, making it hard to navigate. The land is split so much that it's a maze of rocky corridors full of half-buried loot and rubble that fell when the land subsided. Ruined homes sit on raised plateaus that you have to climb to get to, but they give good loot in return. Like the previous landscape, it's dry and it's dust-ridden and there's just dirt everywhere kicked up by the earthquakes. Maybe even the land itself may suffer from tremors, making many parts unstable. And yeah, that's all I've got to really say on that really, but I think it's just a really good idea anyway.
Number 2. Dense Forest.
Having cities and bigger towns is going to be great, but on the other side of the spectrum, what about a more secluded area like a landscape that was once a national park? A place where there are fewer villages and it's more secluded with very dense forests. Here a survivor could make a camp or a cabin or even a community with the lesser chance of encountering other players. This is really down to the player though, whether they would like areas which are quieter and more serene, a place where you need to rely on surviving off the land and scavenging from the ruins, possibly even spawning less zombies, but having more dangerous wildlife instead. I think this would really give players the chance to live their story out in the wilderness than having to deal with the urban areas or the chaos of the bigger cities. I'm just speculating here, but I don't think that you could have multiple areas like this. Because it's a game based on a zombie apocalypse, it's going to be better to stick with the criteria that works and keep the map consistent with urban areas. However, I reckon it would be beneficial to have just one place like this to experiment with crafting from nature to with more hunter-gathering activities to get players' feedback. Plus, it might help build better bases. If you're going to get random people constantly running up on your community, it's going to be bedlam. It's going to be harder to hoard the resources and advance your community if homes are constantly under attack. So if you had an area like this that allowed for bases to be more hidden away and more secluded, you might get a better result in the community building side of things. That's my pitch on it anyway. There's one more thing though. This place got number 2 because it could have a massive twist to it. Nature has a very cruel side. There may be lesser people and things look easier in ways, but come the change of the seasons, what was once your tranquil hideaway is now a freezing hellhole. Come the winter season, the landscape could change so rapidly, like Yellowstone in the winter. The mountains create a cold trap that freezes everything. It becomes the coldest place on the map. Any people who live there must take preparation in order to survive the harsh winter. Collecting and crafting warmer clothes and heating are essential here. Even travelling through in cars could carry the risk of getting stranded and stuck in the snow. If you underestimate the snow, weather, or get caught in a horrendous blizzard, you pretty much get popsicled instantly.
Number 1. The Swamp.
Located to the far southeast, modelled off the wetlands of Louisiana to Mississippi, you could have the Swamp, a very dark and murky labyrinth of cypress trees, reeds and algae, best accessed by boats and rafts. To me, this topography got number one for loads of different reasons. Firstly, it's fraught with unseen exotic dangers. There could be a fog system that's always changing the amount of visibility, so if you're a newcomer to the Swamp, it's a place you could really get lost really easily if you don't keep your wits about you. The Swamp could have predators stalking you from beneath the algae, such as poisonous snakes and vicious animals like alligators. So if it's done right, with low visibility and algae, you could be constantly on edge or suspicious of what's floating past your boat. And of course, let's not forget what could be the most terrifying predator of them all. Swamp zombies. Nasty, rotting, bloated undead that jump up from the swamp when you're in close proximity. So when it comes to enemies, I think the Swamp is unique in that you can't see what's approaching you until it's almost upon you. It could be an extremely deadly place, but also a place you could get lost or hide in if you end up getting in bad reputations with other communities on the same server. It could well be a place you could go and lay low for a while if others are after you. That's if reputations on the servers get complex. When it comes to civilization, towns in the Swamp could be put on patches of higher grounds, which you could get to by cars through a series of bridges, perhaps even a town that's been flooded and taken by the Swamp, and you can go raid it by boat. There's just loads of stuff you could do with this. But I think what would also be really interesting would be for players to really pull their resources from the Swamp and craft their own living spaces. Things such as crafting houses and walkways that can be stilted or floated. This would hopefully lead to the player to make their own swamp towns and communities, a place of their own tucked away in the bayou, maybe places that are exclusive or are only known to some groups of people, places that you can trade and get your health back up before going back out and taking it all on again. So that's my top 5 suggestions for future topography for H1Z1. These concept videos are pie in the sky, but I hope I've put forward some interesting ideas that players can discuss. So give me your input, guys. Is there anything that could be added or something that you would like to see or do in new landscapes? Or even a view to why these landscapes wouldn't even work at all? It's even good to get critique as well. So tell me your thoughts and I'll be back with more videos covering different topics. Also, thank you to my supporters as well. You guys have been great with encouragement and comments and ratings. You guys have been awesome so far. Thank you so much for all your support. So yeah, this has been Credidred. Take care out there, everyone. All the blessed.